One. Good.
All right. Well, good evening, one and all. Welcome to the January 12th Complete Streets Commission meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with Complete Streets Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. So I'm going to like to introduce Complete Street Commission members and staff present. I'm Chair Adina Levin, with commissioners present, including Brian Altman, Katie Baruzzi, Jackie Sebrian. Commissioner Cole is currently absent. Commissioner Cromie, Commissioner Jensen, and Commissioner Lee. And in addition, Commissioner King is also absent. Staff present include Kevin Chen, Christiane Choi, Fu Nguyen, and Patrick Palmer. Patrick, will you please provide instructions to the Complete Streets Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed from here?
Yes, thank you, Chair Levin and members of the Complete Streets Commission. Welcome everyone to the January 12th Complete Streets Commission meeting, and thank you for attending. At this time, we ask that the members of the commission please remain on screen for the duration of the meeting. You will be able to control your own webcams and microphones. Staff will engage webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to the members of the commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to open your microphone and you can provide your public comment to the commission. Or for members of the public who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, you can also press *9 to raise your virtual hand. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair.
All right, thank you very much. We will now move on to item C, reports and announcements, under which staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Kevin, can you please provide any reports and announcements that you may have?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Can you give me a second here? So I do have a few announcements and reports that I wanted to make since the last time we met. So please do bear with me as I go through the list real quickly. So a majority of them will be city council related. I just wanted to make a quickly announcement that we do have a new mayor and a new vice mayor. Our mayor for this year would be Betsy Nash, and our vice mayor this year would be Jen Wallison. And our commission liaison will continue to be council member Cecilia Taylor. A few businesses that the city council approved that might be of interest to you. First and foremost, the city council did approve the Garwood and Merrill Street left turn restriction on Oak Grove Avenue. So the next phase is to move into design. There will be some, we currently did notice a couple design constraints that we need to address. So definitely will take a bit more time than anticipated, but we're definitely moving forward with the progress of that report. The city council also approved the Sharon Road sidewalk project. So that one is another one that is milestone approval right there. Additionally, the city council also authorized the city manager to execute a cost sharing agreement. This is with the county of Summertail for a transportation study on Coleman and Ringwood. And so this is a study that some of you have might have noted a little bit beyond that we have been working with the county on agreements. So I'm happy to report that we came to an agreement with the cost sharing and the city council authorized the execution of such agreement. So the next step is to obviously all the administrative work we need to be done before we can move into the study. But I'm very happy that it's moving forward as well. The city council also authorized the city manager to execute a purchase and sales agreement. This is for the 700 to 800 block, 700 to 800 of El Camino. For those of you that might know, this is the area that the city purchased for the purpose of completing the Middle Avenue undercrossing project. Another project that, another effort that's been going for a while now, so happy to see that moving forward. Also, just wanted to make a quick announcement that the city has officially joined Camino.org, so very excited. Thank you, Nick Nicholas E. for pushing that effort. And as a result of that, we'll have 2 council members that are now on the board. They are Vice Mayor Wallisland and also Councilmember Drew Combs. Finally, I do want to make a quick announcement about upcoming meeting that might be of interest to some of you, and that is the Joint Venture Silicon Valley will be hosting a public Zoom meeting. The topic will be on the Peninsula Bikeway project. For those that might be interested, it's for this Friday, so 5th January 14th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I've already emailed the registration link to the commissioner, to all the commissioners. So if you're interested, definitely feel free to register and sit in on that meeting. And with that, I will conclude my reports and announcements. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And moving on to D public comment, under which members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject that is not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly speak your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agendized issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Let's see, do we have any members of the public if you want to make a public comment, please use the Zoom feature to raise your hand or dial star something.
Star 9.
Star 9 if you are on phone. Okay, see no members of the public with hands raised. So we will move on to item E, regular business, under which the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. So first is to approve the minutes from the Complete Streets Commission meetings of November the 10th, 2021. Note that we skipped December. So are there any clarifications from the commission on this item before taking any public comment that may be there? Commissioner Baruzzi.
I hate to bring this up because I feel like I'm always bringing this kind of thing up. But when I was looking at the minutes, which I thought were great, I did wonder on the red curb section. I feel like we talked as a commission a fair amount about not just prioritization, but like, having like as a city, like looking at more of these places maybe. And I'm not sure it made it into the motion, and maybe it doesn't need to make it into the minutes. But I think and we have, another project like this coming up today. So I appreciate that. But I think I just wanted to say again, in the public record that I appreciate it when staff bring these to us. And I hope that we can be not just responsive, but maybe even a little proactive with some of these kinds of like visibility enhancement projects. So it doesn't feel quite so random. I don't know if that should make it into the minutes or not. And if it shouldn't, then I would go ahead and just say that we should approve the minutes. But
all right, does staff have a preference on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point right there. So I can go ahead and make those edits. So if the commission is okay with the content that Commissioner Baruzzi just mentioned, then we can approve the minute with the addition, and I will wordsmith it a little bit better for the actual publication.
All right, I'm not seeing anybody objecting.
How about I move that we approve the minutes with that addition, and somebody can second it, and then if anybody doesn't agree, then we can talk about it quickly before voting. So I'll make that move. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, so before we do a vote, are there any members of the public that have any comments on the minutes? I am not seeing any hands. Use the Zoom feature to comment or dial star 9. Seeing no comments, bringing it back to the commission for any discussion or vote. Can staff help us vote?
Okay, great. So with the commissioners, with those that would like to vote affirmative to the item, if you can just raise your hands and hold it up for a couple of seconds. So I am seeing, great, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Moving on to item E2, which is to recommend the adoption of resolutions number 2022-1 and 2022-2, excuse me, to remove parallel on-street parking spaces on University Drive. And staff member Fu Nguyen will introduce the item. And also please correct if there's any corrections to the pronunciation of your name.
Fu, do you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Yeah, I'm sharing screen right now. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, can you guys see my screen? Everyone see my screen in full mode?
Right now, we're still seeing the kind of not the presentation mode, but the file mode.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Right now, the presentation mode is fully loaded.
Perfect.
Okay,
There it is.
so-
I think you probably just lag a little
Great.
bit, so you can go ahead and start.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, good evening, Madam Chairs, Commission members, and member of the public, and everyone else here tonight. My name is Fu again. I'm with the Transportation Division. This is my second time come to you with the projects that have been proposed. And that project is parking removal on University Drive at Milli Avenue and Rose Avenue. So in the past, we received incident of people who live on or work on Rose Avenues and Milli Avenue try to get onto University Drive safely. Unfortunately, they couldn't, so they have to encroach onto University Drive from the stop bar about 7 to 8 feet. And definitely that's not safe. So I went out there to verify the concerns. As you see in the photos right here, car parked very close to the edge of the intersection, and that significantly reduced the line of sight of the drivers, either turn left or turn right onto University Drive. These photos were taken on a less busy day, but on a typical day, the car park everywhere. So definitely there's a problem, and we need to do something about it. So right now, University Drive have the posted speed of 25 miles per hour. And according to American Association of State Highway and Transportation official, the stop inside distance required for that posted speed is 155 feet. So if we look at the first intersection, which is University Drive and Milli Avenue, in order for us to achieve that 155 feet stop inside distance, we need to increase the red curve that current there. Right now, 7 feet on each side, we need to have about 43 feet of red curve, for us to have the left side increase. And for us to get that 43 feet of red curve, we need to remove 2 parking spaces on both the left and the right side of Milli Avenue. Similarly, at the other intersection, which is Rose Avenue. However, the difference is on Rose Avenue, the red curve are longer. One of them is 14 feet. The other side is 25 feet. Therefore, we don't need to take out that many parking spaces, but we do take two out, one on each side. So my recommendation for tonight is to remove 4 parking spaces at the intersection of University Drive and Milli Avenue. And on Rose Avenue and University Drive, 2 parking spaces, 1 on each side. So as far as public reach concern is, we sent out postcard, and also part of that was placed A-frame poster at the project location. And last week, I received an email from the Pexon family who live on Rose Avenue. And according to the email, he mentioned that due to COVID, so he got to work from home most of his time. And he witnessed so many near miss, so many almost incident that people got into accident there. And unfortunately, one child was hit by the car. So when he received the postcard from us, he was very happy and fully support of the city action on this project. So with that, I would conclude my presentation tonight and ready for any question that the panel may have. I thank you for your time, your consideration, and hopefully your approval on the projects. And hopefully that will turn that part of our beautiful city into a safer place for people to live and to work there as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. So we're going to start with any questions that members of the commission may have, and then we will take public comments, and then we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion and motions. Any questions, Commissioner Jensen?
Yeah, thanks so much, Fu, for presenting about this. This is really, it's so good to see constituents come through and offer support as well. I'm curious on the AASHTO recommendation policy of 155 feet. Can you give us more context on why these original red curbs of 14 feet and 25 feet and 7 feet were created? Did these guidelines not exist back then, or was this just was the speed limit different or something like that? Do we know?
Let me try to crack that. According to AASHTO, definitely 25 mile per hour speed limit is required to have 155 feet of stopping sign distance, as we previously discussed. But then the history of it, why 7 feet there or 14 feet here and another 25 feet there, I don't know. And throughout the city, there's the different length of red curve, and hopefully one day we'll most likely we have to uniform it somehow. That's how I see it.
Okay, and maybe just as a follow-up on that, do we do a regular audit of things like this and places in the city where we're not complying with AASHTO policies?
Maybe in the past it was, but then this is my second time involved in this type of project or assignments. And to answer your question, we picked up when the resident actually raised their concerns, and we try to get one at a time and try to uniform that.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, this seems like a no-brainer to me. It just is like something that I want to make sure, yeah, we're solving the problems in the right places. But this particular location, it sounds like from the letter that was received that this is kind of a specific area of concern. So thanks so much again.
Thank you.
And I'll just jump in real quick for Commissioner Jensen. Historically, we've been relatively passive when it comes to this type of evaluation. Hence, the last comment that Commissioner Baruzzi had mentioned, which was maybe the city should be more proactive, and that's something we'll take into consideration.
Thanks, Commissioner Lee.
Yeah, sorry, my computer just blew up there, so I may have missed a portion of the conversation, but I was wondering, in the last bicycle and pedestrian plan for Menlo Park, which I think is 2005, what does it say about this stretch of University? Does anyone know that off the top of their head, or have they looked it up recently? I apologize, I should have done some research beforehand, but I'm just wondering, is University supposed to have better provisions for bicyclists than it has now? Does anyone know?
Just to clarify, are you asking in the context of whether or not there's planned bicycle facilities along University?
Yeah, like is there a grand plan for this part of University, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. So I know that earlier on when the Oak Grove project was first conceived, there was plan to convert part of university. So in this case, it will be from Oak Grove to Santa Cruz.
Right.
By putting bike lane in there, by removing the parking, and that was maybe 3 years ago or so, has since been removed from the priority list. I'm looking at I'm going through our TMP right now to see. So it is still part of our TMP project, number 189. It's on the list.
Right. I'm just thinking, given the concerns that people have brought up about safety and my own experience bicycling on University here, you know, rather than simply removing parking to make it, you know, visibility better for cars coming out of Milli and Rose, whether there's any possibility of, you know, increasing the scope of the project a little bit to fulfill some of the past desires of the community for a safer bike route along this route, because we're, you know, that all that stuff happens in a very short stretch, right? And Rose and Milli are, you know, you're getting closer and closer to downtown, right? So once you have more intersections and, you know, then you have obviously the potential for a lot more conflict between bicyclists and pedestrians, I should say, and drivers. I know that driving along the street is also not the most pleasant experience because you don't know what else is on the road. Some, you know, there's people crossing the road there too, because there are businesses on the other side. I mean, I have experienced the difficulty as a pedestrian as well, trying to cross the street there at those intersections. So, again, I know that's not covered in the scope of this project, and we are, you know, we have a habit in this group of constantly asking for more. But given the fact that the safety concerns have been raised, right, does it behoove us as a commission to say, hey, can we do a little bit more here?
Let's hold on to discussion and bring that back when we discuss, but thanks for clarifying where it is in the TMP, which for members of the public stands for Transportation Master Plan for the city. So are there any other commissioners who have questions before we go to public comment? I am not seeing any hands from members of the commission, but I do see a comment from a member of the public. Can Randy Avalos please virtually come forward?
Good evening, Commissioners. Randy Avalos, District 5. Just wanted to comment. This project seems like a great idea. But a note about the public comment received from a local resident. They're happy about it, which is great. This also seems like they probably would have been like to have that done in the past. So just some clarity to how do residents get involved in this process? What's the transparency behind that? And perhaps there could be an opportunity for proposed bike options. So just hopefully the staff can provide some clarity onto how that process is done.
Thanks very much. And can staff clarify two things? One is what notification might have been made for people to know what was being proposed for this tonight? And secondly, what notice and public participation happened around the Transportation Master Plan in which university is called out for eventual bike lanes? Can staff provide information about those things?
So I'll let Fu take the answer on the publication around the area, and then I'll take on the team.
Okay, yes. So the first one, we take two approach. We send postcard out to the publics. And then that's come out to the 500-foot radius of people who live around the area. And also we place a airframe poster there, similar to the last project that we did. So that's how we get the people to be informed of what's happening next.
Thank you. And Kevin, you talk about the Transportation Master Plan and but
right. So So the transportation master plan was obviously not part of this project. There was an extensive outreach that was done when the project was going on at the time. I simply bringing that up to as a response to Commissioner Lee's question, but certainly there was no intention of bringing any of the projects from the transportation master plan as part of this very effort. And also just to respond to Mr. Avallo's question about how do we typically get this type of request. Menlo Park, City of Menlo Park, we have quite a few venues for residents to raise any concerns that they have. So that includes secret fixed, phone calls to one of us, emails to one of us, either a email to one of us or we have a transportation general email as well. People generally also go to their council members or sometimes even commissioners if they have an issue that they see on the street. So in this case, we receive emails and similarly with the meeting back in November as well. So in this case, both projects were brought to our attention by an email of a resident that lives on that street. And that's usually how we made aware of this type of issues, and as a result of that, we would go out and investigate. And if there's a need to improve the conditions, then obviously we'll come back to the commission with a set of recommendations. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. And are there any other members of the public who would like to make a comment? Please, if so, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature or dial *9 on your phone. I am not seeing any more hands raised, so I'm going to bring this back to the commission for comments and motions.
I see Commissioner Baruzzi has her hand up.
Okay, Commissioner Baruzzi.
I would like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Are there any seconds for that motion?
Second.
Any commentary from commissioners? Commissioner Lee.
I guess not to belabor my previous point again, but just to say that if these kinds of safety issues are noted by the public, if there is a way to involve the TMP and use that TMP as a framework for making these kinds of changes, and not just these like spot changes that address the immediate, immediate urgent issue, but broaden the scope of the project enough so that we can kind of do multiple things and improve the overall safety beyond just the tiny spot problem, that would be wonderful. I don't know how that is involved in the motion, but if there's a way to incorporate some sort of wording to that effect, that would be great.
Since I made the motion, can I quickly respond? I think in any ordinary time, I would agree with you. And I do agree in principle. I just think we're at a time right now where we know the city to be understaffed. This is like a really quick one and done that we can actually authorize without having to have it jump through a million hoops and go to council. And it feels like a really quick fix that could happen like within a month maybe, as opposed to something that would need to be extensively workshopped with all the outreach that we know usually precedes things like this. And so I support adding, some statement about how we would love in the future to see these kinds of projects have that kind of expansive scope, but I also don't want to bog it down or, cause too much delay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to put a spanner. I don't want to throw a spanner into the motion. I mean, the effort that staff has gone through already. I want to see that happen as soon as possible. But if we could have that wording to indicate that this is what we would like to see as a commission.
Okay. I'm going to comment on that before doing the Robert's Rules thing. And my thought about this is that we have like there are a number of projects from the TMP that are in the queue for the city to be working on. There's a Middlefield repaving, where Middlefield is one of our high injury corridors. We have El Camino crosswalks, which have been in the queue for a good number of years, and I think are finally supposed to come forward and get built. We have we have the middle undercrossing, which will be a dramatic improvement for access around the city. And then in the subsequent year, we have a Willow. So I want to see bike lanes on University also, but I wouldn't feel comfortable if we said, let's when someone sees something on University, let's move that ahead in the queue of something that is higher in the injury corridor. So I love our policy to fix the line of sight safety issues immediately. But I also think that we have what we're doing as prioritized by high injury corridors, and would love to see us following that. So you had put something forward as it sounded like as a potential friendly amendment, but it didn't sound like Commissioner Baruzzi was. Well, let me just ask Commissioner Baruzzi, were you interested in accepting that or some version of that as a friendly amendment?
I feel so friendly toward Commissioner Lee, but actually I don't want to change our current, I don't want to muddy the waters of the current clean process that we have for this very specific discrete task by adding, I don't want to change the process. I'm not interested in changing that process. Maybe other people are.
And through the chair, if I may just kind of jump in and hopefully provide some context as well. I think Commissioner Lee, your point is well taken, and we definitely do that internally. Every time we have a project going on, we definitely look at the TMP first and foremost to make sure if there are straightforward projects that we incorporate as part of the the current effort. We definitely take opportunities and take those opportunities to do so as well. With that being said, there are projects within the TMP that are, kind of what we consider to be tier 1, tier 2, where we want to do the proper outreach, given the scope, etc. The one that I mentioned, the university one, would be a great example. For that project, we likely would also combine that with the project that's on Oak Grove as well, because there's another project. So we most likely will combine those two, and given the scope, given the area, we definitely would need to do more extensive outreach. Probably for in addition to what we typically would do. So definitely your point is well taken, and I can assure you that that's something that we do internally, but do recognize, as Commissioner Baruzzi and Chair Dina mentioned, some of the projects in terms of the scope do not afford the opportunity for us to just throw it in there. They do require additional outreach. So hopefully that puts your mind at ease. We are doing that when we can.
And I'm going to take privilege for a second before going to Commissioner Altman, which is that one of the things we're going to get to talk about is what our recommendations are to council for prioritization. And I think that we as a city could be moving quite a lot faster on building out the TMP. And so I think that's something I'll be thinking about in that context. Moving on to Commissioner Altman.
And just a quick question. What is the cost of doing this in terms of time and money? Just quickly, approximately. Is it days, weeks, months, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 to actually address E1?
By this, do you mean the project we're talking about? Or?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So something like this, I guess it's hard to put a number to it, but FOO would have to go out there, investigate the area. Obviously, that takes some time, and then also coming back, because usually with the investigation, you also need to come back to some rough calculation, or not rough, but more precise calculations Food is also responsible for kind of writing the staff report and presenting to you all tonight as well. So, that's usually the amount of work that goes into it on the preparation side. And then assuming approval from the commission, well, I guess taking one step back, depending on the number of parking spaces, the commission does have power to approve, but beyond a certain level, we would need to go to the city council in addition to the commission, right? So that adds another meeting, another staff report, and then one assuming approval from the body, then we would go out, create a work order, and then have either a contractor actually do the work. And then that obviously you'll need to pay the contractor to do that work as well. Paint is usually not that expensive, I would say. I don't have the unit cost off the top of my head, unfortunately, but that's generally the process.
Just orders of magnitude, give me a number. How
Yeah,
many?
so the material and the installation, so like for instance, a project of this size, thank you, Patrick, for bringing that. It's generally a little bit less than $1,000. So talking about installation and material cost.
Thanks.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments before we vote? Not seeing any. Can staff help us to vote?
Great, thank you very much. And just for the record, we have a motion from Commissioner Baruzzi and a second by Commissioner Sabrian. Am I correct? Okay, great. So for those commissioners that would like to vote affirmative, if you can raise your hand and hold it up for a couple of seconds, that would be great. I do see unanimous votes. So great, thank you very much.
All right, so thank you very much, and thanks to the city for moving promptly on safety concerns, and we can use other parts of our agendas to address the also good desire to be more proactive. And we will now move on in the agenda to an item where I suspect that there are some members of the public being eager to. Commissioner Altman, is your hand raised from before?
No,
okay.
I live within 1,000 feet of E3, so I have to sit this one out.
Okay. So thank you for the announcement of the recusal. Does staff want to explain anything else about the recusal process as we move forward with the next item, which is E3 recommending that the Complete Streets Commission recommend to the City Council to approve no parking restrictions on El Camino Real?
Great, yeah, so while we have our senior transportation engineer come on the screen, yeah, so if I can ask Commissioner Altman to just turn off your mic and turn off your camera for the time being. And then once this item is complete, then you're welcome to join us again. So.
And for people who are joining us for this item, we're going to have a staff presentation, then we're going to have questions from the commission, and then we will open it up to public comment, then bring it back to the commission for discussion and a vote. If staff can go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, great. Good evening, Chair Levin, Commissioners. I'm Christiane Choi, Senior Transportation Engineer with the City's Transportation Division. Can you see my presentation? Just want to confirm.
Yes, we can see it.
Great, thanks. So tonight I'm presenting on the no parking restrictions on a portion of El Camino Real. And tonight's presentation will include a background of the project, our evaluation, and then staff's recommendations. So currently, Stanford is constructing the Middle Plaza project at 500 El Camino Real. It's a mixed-use development, including retail, residential, and office uses. And that project is anticipated to be complete in 2022. It has a number of off-site improvements that they're required to do, including one at the intersection of El Camino Real and Middle Avenue, which is one of the access points into the project site. Studies for El Camino Real has also identified future bicycle facilities. In 2015, the city undertook a study for El Camino Real and looking at potential designs. The desired improvements that came out of that study included enhanced pedestrian safety and crossings of El Camino Real and inclusion of bike lanes. And in 2016, the council accepted the study and identified buffered bike lanes as the preferred alternative. Then in 2020, the council adopted our transportation master plan, and that plan also identifies buffered bike lanes on El Camino Real within the city limits. And that was also identified as one of the tier 1 projects. The city has also been involved in the Peninsula Bikeway study in conjunction with other cities along the peninsula. And that study has also identified El Camino to be the preferred alternative for a low stress separated bikeway. So currently the intersection of El Camino Real and Middle Avenue has one crosswalk crossing El Camino, if that's on the northern leg. And so as part of the improvements that Stanford's constructing at this intersection, they will be adding a crosswalk on the south leg that would complete then the pedestrian crossings at this intersection. And currently there's also these flexible posts that separate the two different directions of travel on El Camino between Middle Avenue, which is located here where my cursor is, and then out this way towards College Avenue. And so as part of the improvements, Stanford would also be constructing a raised concrete median that would be about 2 feet wide to provide better separation between the two directions of traffic, and also to reduce or eliminate the need to replace these flexible posts every time they get knocked down or damaged. However, in order to place that 2 foot wide median, it does require us to remove the parking spaces along El Camino between Middle and College Avenue. Currently, there are 8 marked stalls there, and there's not enough width between the median and the curb to provide parking and the 3 lanes of travel. That was just a summary of what I just mentioned. So the other thing, in anticipation of the future bike lanes on El Camino Real, staff has also looked at removing the parking on the east side of El Camino along the Middle Plaza frontage all the way south to the city limits between Menlo Park and Palo Alto. And that would result in a total of 67 parking spaces being removed. So both the Middle Plaza project and the Stanford Park Hotel, which are on that side of the street, do have parking that will be provided, and that could be that would serve their employees, guests, and residents. So notification for this item was done through postcards that were sent to the property owners and businesses within a 500-foot radius. We also put out some A-frames on the west side of El Camino Real to identify or to let people know about this meeting and the parking removal. It should be noted that we did receive a call from one of the businesses on El Camino Real on the west side this afternoon, indicating concerns about the parking removal. They do have a couple of parking spaces behind their business that they use for employees, but they were concerned about where their customers might park. Staff does note that there is some parking around the corner on Middle Avenue, west of Alto Lane. It does mean though that the customers would have a further distance to walk. And so finally, the recommendations from staff is to recommend to City Council to remove the 8 parking spaces on the west side and then 67 parking spaces on the east side. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question.
Madam Chair, I think you're muted.
So yes, so Commissioner Baruzzi.
I'm curious about, I think it must have said in the staff report, and somehow I'm not sure though. Were the commissioners or how many of the residents in Allied Arts got notice about this? How far did you all postcard?
It was within the 500-foot radius. So if you, I think we placed a point on El Camino and then went out 500 feet. So
Okay.
I don't know the exact number.
Okay. Oh, and it's just that one, it's just, yeah, between middle and college. Okay.
Any other commissioners have questions? I will have one if nobody goes. Okay, so in terms of the, in terms of the Stanford development side that has plentiful on-site parking, in terms of the west side, what has staff done to look into the availability of alternative car parking? And if car parking is less easy to see because it's right in front of the business, is there any thought to signage to help people know where they can park if they can't park right in front of the store?
So as I mentioned earlier, there is some limited parking on Middle Avenue that's a little bit further away, but I think College Avenue doesn't have a lot of parking because it's permit parking as you get further into the neighborhood. So yeah, I think that that's one of the ways to kind of direct the customers to there is potentially some kind of signs that say parking can be found around the corner or something.
Okay, and is there, are there any spaces available in the back? And like for disclosure, I use those businesses and go there pretty often, but I'm usually walking or biking, so I'm not usually looking for parking. So are there parking spaces available in the back?
So I think it depends on which business it is. Some of the business have more parking in the back than others. So yeah, so there is some parking, but not, it depends on which business.
Okay, Commissioner Lee.
So following up on Chair Lynn's question about parking, if people are expected to park on Middle, does that interfere with proposed bike lanes or potential bike lanes on Middle? Because that is going to be a very big route, and so the last thing we want to do is to shuffle parking onto some other street and affect that other street, shall we say.
Yeah, so I think that's something that we'll have to consider when we look at Middle Avenue. I know that the Safeway side already is red curb, so it's possible that we could still fit the bicycle lanes without removing additional parking in that first kind of block from El Camino. Yeah.
Also, speaking of the Safeway lot, it seems like there is almost like I'm not sure I've ever seen the Safeway lot be entirely full. There's usually space in the Safeway lot. Would the Safeway lot owners be willing to? I also don't expect that there's anybody out there like policing if you are shopping at Safeway and then walking across to like the little convenience store or something. So is that also a possibility for people to park in the Safeway lot and walk across the street?
I think that could be a possibility. Probably we need to explore it with the property owners at the Safeway development.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Katie, is that a new hand or an old hand?
both hands.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the commission before we go to comments from members of the public? I am not seeing any. So with that, would like to take public comment, and for members of the public, if you can use the Zoom raised hand feature to comment, and or if you are on the phone, you can dial *9 to get into the queue. And I see that is that Chaya, or please pronounce your name, Chaya Dunn. Ms. Dunn, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, this is Kaya. I am with the Stanford Park Hotel. So obviously we have several questions and some things we'd like to discuss as well. Certainly on the opposite side of the street from the hotel, which I believe is the west side, there's some businesses that look to be closed at this time. Business, offices for lease, things of that nature. So I'm not sure if we're hearing all the public comments on that side of it prior to this call or this meeting. And I know that doesn't affect us quite as much, other than the fact that we would like to see new businesses move in there that would have some parking available to them as well. We have the concern that people will be parking in our parking lot. It's an open surface. We have only so many to fit everyone in the hotel and any events, restaurant, etc. So we're hoping to keep this parking open in front of the hotel. So a couple of the other things that fall into this, I know we've had RV concerns, those that have parked RVs in front of the hotel and along the road, that we certainly don't want long-term parking like that. And when you come off of Alma onto El Camino, it is difficult to see when you make that turn from the light going towards the northbound side. I guess that would be really, when you're coming up there, it gets a little difficult to see, as that gets a bit of a raceway for folks coming at Sand Hill Road there. So those are concerns, I understand. But it sounds to me like this main reason for changing the parking is because we want to put the median in the middle, not so much about a bike lane at this point. We can't get oversized vehicles such as full passenger buses onto our parking lot because there's no way to turn them around. So full passenger buses need to park in front of the hotel on El Camino. So if I can't get a full bus out there, I have no place for them to park. So we don't. So that's another concern with it. You said it's 67 parking spaces, I believe, along that side that would be removed. So these are our concerns. I know that I'm sure there's probably some other things we could do for it, whether it be permit parking for buses, something like that might be an opportunity for us as a compromise. But we do need to find something for oversized parking for that section right there.
Thank you. So would like to ask some clarifying questions of the person from the hotel. And in terms of the buses, what is the pattern of the buses that use that parking in front of the hotel? Are there, are the buses, do they tend to be stopped for 15 minutes? Are they stopped for hours at a time? How do the buses tend to use that parking?
That's a great question. It's a variety. So when we have buses that are the larger ones, oftentimes they are short-term for loading, unloading, and they kind of move along, whether it's for taking someone to an offsite, to Stanford, to to other events and things. That's one piece. It's the teams. If you have a college team or someone like that staying in the hotel, it's often overnight parking. We don't get a lot of that, but we certainly do get some. So the full buses, we had them there this week, in fact. So they would need to park overnight on the street. Other the smaller buses, the coach size, we can fit onto the parking lot, and we do. We park those there without a problem.
And I'm gonna have some more questions for staff about the bus use case, but we'll do that when we're in discussion. Want to come back to additional questions from other members of the public. So I see that someone with a phone number of 650-714, etc. You can dial *9 to unmute yourself and state your name and the city in which you live, or your connection to uses on El Camino, and share your public comment. Can staff help with any tech support needed?
Yes, the number is currently unmuted. So if you'd like to start your public comment, you should be able to speak. There we go.
Do you have me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Great, thank you. My name is Peter Cook. I live on Partridge Avenue, 628 Partridge Avenue in Allied Arts. And one of my concerns, my primary concern with this idea is that while I think from a safety perspective, I agree with the general concept that the removal of parking on El Camino puts a lot of pressure on the Allied Arts streets that are dumping out into El Camino there. And I know a staff member mentioned that there is permit parking that's supposed to alleviate business and visitor parking from taking up our parking on the street. But I don't think that's really been being enforced since probably winter of 2020. We've had construction workers and a lot of the plaza activity workers parking on our streets. So, you know, I don't live on College. I live one block down, but my guess is they're going to feel a lot more pressure because people are not going to park on Middle. They're going to park on College. Much easier, I think, and probably more natural for them to do. So, you know, I think any Allied Arts resident should be concerned about additional parking happening on the El Camino end. If you don't live down there like I do, then you should at least be concerned about it from a safety perspective, with a lot of cars lying in the street and that. And then secondarily, from a line of sight from the earlier, the parking that is along there, if you turn right out of College right now, I'm sure, and Partridge right now, and maybe even Harvard, the parking on El Camino gives you almost no line of sight when you're pulling out. And it's probably one of the fastest speed-wise of any street in Menlo Park, maybe outside Sand Hill. So I don't know what the line of sight requirement is for 45 or 50 miles an hour. But if it's, 50 feet for 25, then probably shouldn't be allowed parking on El Camino to start. Anyway, those are my concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And I have two clarifying questions for staff regarding the previous public comment. And then we'll see if there's any other members of the public who have questions, and then bring it back for comment. So the two clarifying questions from staff is what is the status of enforcement of the permit parking on College and other streets in that neighborhood?
So I'm not completely sure. I know that they did suspend parking enforcement during the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure they restored it and it's back. So but I don't know, how often that happens or what, but I believe that they are enforcing again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. And then regarding the other question about the line of sight, has the city staff done a line of sight audit for El Camino parking as relates to the access where that might be an issue? Has that been done regarding that potential safety concern?
I don't think we've done it globally on El Camino, but I do know that at the college intersection, there is already red curb near the intersection. So that allows for someone to enter a little further out to make, to be able to have a better line of sight. And then, of course, on El Camino, because of the raised median, they only are concerned about the one direction of traffic.
Okay. And then I'm going to have one more clarifying question about from Kaya Dunn's question about the buses and the need for overnight parking of a large bus for like a sports team. In the Stanford development next door, do they, where I imagine a whole bunch of their parking is going to be mostly used during the day for the office sections, is there going to be space there usually being unused in the evening?
So I do think that the building closest to the Stanford Park Hotel is an office building. So one would think that generally the office building would not be used in the evening. I'm not sure. I think there might be some parking under the building though. So I'm not sure if the bus can fit or not under that. But there might be some parking in the back. That would be something that would need to be explored a little further.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering those questions. Are there any other members of the public who have not spoken so far who want to comment before we bring it back for commission discussion? All right, I am not seeing any additional members of the public with a hand raised, so I want to bring it back to the commission for discussion and eventual motions. Let's see, are there any commissioners? And I can't see y'all at the same time, so if you could use the raised hand feature to indicate that you would like to comment. And I would very much like to not go first, so Commissioner Lee.
So going back to the parking on side streets off of El Camino, that the resident Peter Cook said about putting some more pressure on those residential streets. Is the permit situation right now, so is the permit situation designed to restrict parking on those streets to residents only? Is that what's going on right now?
I believe so. I think you need to have a permit to park in those areas.
Okay, so basically if let's say, okay, so I'm thinking about that block. Let's say, so the UPS and Sweet Orchid and things like that on the corner of, I think that's College and El Camino, they have a little lot there and there's some limited parking in the alleyway behind there. But if say someone was not able to find a spot there, then their only option would be to somehow make their way up middle to maybe a section that was wide enough to accommodate bike lanes and on-street parking, or go to the Safeway lot. Is that what we're kind of proposing or like, thinking through the parking situation there? Is that kind of what the options are?
Yes, I think those are kind of the primary options that you mentioned.
Got it. Okay, so that if I were a business owner on El Camino and people were, I I could see how that would be a concern for those businesses. I'm not sure that, at the same time, I also think that, you know, saving those few spots on El Camino, and then creating potential hazard for people, is like, it's not very safe parking either, right? So, you know, it may just be the way that things are set up there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have any more insights to share on that, other than I guess I am thrilled that staff is thinking ahead and being proactive and thinking about eventual bike lanes on El Camino, going back to 2015. I know that was something that, you know, has been in the, I think it is very forward thinking, especially now that we are looking at all the development on El Camino, to be talking about bike lanes on El Camino again. So thanks.
Mhm. All right, I see that there's another member of the public who has raised their hand. So I'm gonna bring it back to the public to make sure that people who are here can be heard. Avi Haksar of the Woodside Hotel Group, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Avi. I'm part of the Woodside Group, like you mentioned. And just to reiterate what Kaya had mentioned earlier, our biggest concern for the Stanford Park Hotel parking lot would be taking away 67 spots on El Camino are going to affect us directly, because we're going to have a lot of people parking in our parking lot because the offices right next door are probably going to have underground parking, and you have a gate on there. We do not have that gate, and that is our biggest concern, that we're going to have a lot of people parking who are not going to utilize the hotel, but you know, use our space and then go to the other businesses. So I just wanted to bring that up, and have you thought of that as a group? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so bringing it back to the commission, any other commissioners ahead of me want to have comments?
This is John. It seems like with the bus situation for overnight parking for sports teams, it seems like Stanford has an awful lot of real estate, you know, that's typically used for football parking, where a bus could be stashed overnight. So that's not to mean that we shouldn't consider that for temporary stuff, but it seems like long-term parking of a bus overnight in that case probably isn't necessary. I'd be curious to see if there are any other overnight uses of any other use cases of a bus that needs to stay there overnight.
All right, thanks. Any other commissioners have comments? All right, so I guess, so in general, my thoughts are that you know, I'm glad to see that our you know, the plans that have been in place for these many years are being moved forward. And I think it's very important for our local businesses to make sure that people who are driving to the businesses and need somewhere to park have somewhere to park, and that streets that people live on near a business area, you know, don't become considered, you know, free parking for people that are patronizing the local businesses. So I think that I would want to see anything that we're doing really taking those situations into account while moving forward with our long-term plans, from, you know, going back to the downtown El Camino plan and the El Camino study and the transportation master plan. So for the the residential for the streets that have residences would want to see enforcement of the permit parking. That's there for good reason. For the businesses where on the west side would want really clear marking for how people can find a place to park. It's like super stressful if you're trying to go to a business and you can't see where you can park. If there's just a sign saying park there, then that's not so bad as an individual user. And then especially would like to see exploration of the Safeway lot. The businesses on the west side, it's not like they're huge businesses that will have hundreds of people going to those businesses. It'll be like ones and twos, and so would love to see the exploration of a Safeway as someplace where people might be able to park their car and walk across the street. And then with regard to the need for the buses, would like to see exploration of options if it's overnight parking for a Stanford use, where that like where a bus could go, and if there's also surface parking or accessible parking that's for the business next door that's unused at night. Also look at options that don't involve parking a car on the street. And also speaking as a user, someone who uses a bicycle, and sometimes when coming like from Palo Alto back into Menlo Park in the evening and having to like zigzag along parked cars, it's not safe and it's scary. And so being able to identify shared parking opportunities seems like a way of providing that space on the street and addressing the needs for vehicles to be parked. Does anybody have any other comments or any motions? Commissioner Seabrand.
So one of the questions I am pondering, and it's hard to know because nothing is normal anymore, but of all the people that we've heard from, it doesn't sound like we've heard from any of the businesses in that little spot. So my question is that parking lot filling up? I mean, they do have a little parking lot and they are small businesses, and my hunch is they're very locally frequented. So I guess part of my thing is, if that parking lot isn't regularly filling up, then we're, doing a lot of twisting to solve a problem that might not exist, when maybe, talking about, I know there's a talk about returning some enforcement things that had gone away. So part of my question is if anybody knows if that parking lot actually fills up on a regular basis. And again, it's hard to know now because nothing fills up right now.
Does staff has any information on that?
So I don't have any information on how built that little parking lot is, but I think it does only serve a few of the businesses, doesn't serve all the businesses on that stretch. So
I want to say anecdotally that it tends to be a lot of quick turnaround. That I can't think of a time when I've been running a parcel to UPS when I haven't been able to quickly park. And I agree with the resident who said that pulling out of that side street is kind of terrifying. I think I've also at least once parked in front of Menlo Bella and El Camino, and it was a really uncomfortable experience, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. So like you kind of take your life into your hands opening the car door.
Yeah, removing that parking space seems like a solution to a safety problem.
Yeah, I actually, I mean, I do feel bad about businesses that are anchored on El Camino because I think it is a really tough scenario when you're on a really busy car-oriented throughway that feels almost like highway-like, right? Because people do go really fast and you don't necessarily have a ton of parking available to you. But I don't know that the solution is to make it like I think some of the visioning that we had around downtown specific plan and transformation around the ECR corridor might actually, improve the potential for retail. I think I was thinking about the Stanford Park Hotel in particular and about the incredibly narrow and formidable sidewalk in front of the Park Hotel and how not comfortable that is as a pedestrian with a stroller. And how, it's certainly not something you'd want to really bike on. It feels really narrow. I feel like there are a lot of poles in the area and maybe there's some tree wells or something. But I imagine that if we made, that as we expand the sidewalks and sort of improve the streetscape for people who aren't just driving through, that it'll feel safer and more convenient for people who are walking and biking from nearby neighborhoods. At least that's my hope.
Commissioner Lee.
So again, thinking about parking for those businesses, right? I'm curious to know whether staff thinks it's an option. Like, should it just, just be incredibly painful for those businesses for whatever reason that they don't have those parking spots? Would it be possible to make a couple of parking, like designated parking spots on those streets like College, those immediate side streets, like paid parking spots, like metered parking spots? So if you did need to, the residents would know that those cars wouldn't be there all day, that those would be those like short-term parking for business, for customers. And that way you could then have parking, but it would be convenient and needed, people would be willing to pay for it for the convenience. And then you would kind of like, I don't know, you could solve the problem that way. Would that be a potential solution?
Is that a question for staff?
Yes.
So I think that will just depend on something that the council would have to weigh in on. If that's something they'd be, right now, I think the only place we have metered parking is in the downtown, kind of central core area around Santa Cruz. No, we don't have any metered parking, right? Sorry. We don't have any metered parking. So it'd be something that we'd have to like do, separately. And I don't know if that's something, we just have it in the two lots, right? And so, sorry.
Right, but theoretically, that is a potential solution if it, just proves so onerous because I am sympathetic to those small businesses along there, like the El Camino parking, if their customers are relying on that right now and they have to then park in the Safeway parking lot, that might be a big lift.
And is this what we're talking about? Is this going to need to come to City Council in addition? So are we making a recommendation for City Council at this time?
Yes, correct. It does need to be approved by City Council because it's a more parking spaces than the commission has authority to remove.
All right, so I see one more member of the public who has not spoken yet. So I'm going to call on Michael Simon. Michael, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I also work at the Stanford Park Hotel, so I have a couple comments. One is those buses aren't always related to sports teams and particularly not always related to Stanford. So parking on Stanford with the buses is not really a solution. And the building next to us, my understanding from the employees that I talked to there's not going to be enough space to park a bus at that adjacent building that they've built. So those are two of the responses to things you brought up. And then just a third comment about the businesses over by Menlo Velo. There's also a business, Namesake Cheesecake. And you're probably going to put the young lady out of business if you take away those parking places. People are not going to walk a distance to try to go and pick up her product and then walk back to their car as far as the Safeway parking lot or even farther. There's no other places to park or pick things up there. So I hope you take that into consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so bringing it back to the commission, does anyone have any motions? And please use the hand raise feature because I can't see everybody at the same time. Commissioner Lee.
I move that we support the staff proposal.
Are there any seconds? Second by Commissioner Seabrand. Would you accept a, actually, I'm going to ask staff for a help on this in terms of what's a friendly amendment versus what's something for staff to do, like what needs to be in the motion and not. But first of all, to Commissioner Lee, would you agree with these things being done if they are in the motion or not in the motion? And one is to make sure that there is enforcement of the permit rules on the streets that people live on nearby.
Sure, since that's what's currently in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then to have staff explore the various different options for shared parking that, actually, before we go to shared parking, for staff to look into how to provide signage for people to be able to locate where the available parking is.
Yes, I also think that per your point, if staff hasn't, I know staff has postcarded that area, but since there are not a whole lot of businesses in that stretch, we've heard from Stanford Park Hotel. I think it would be a great idea for staff to make maybe that personal contact out with the businesses that are there right now, and or the property owners to figure out exactly what parking is available, because it is confusing right now when you go back into that alleyway. It's not clear what is it, an open space.
All right, yeah, so for staff to, like, first of all, investigate what parking is available, and then to include in the proposal signage for people to find the parking that's available. And then third, to investigate all the the relevant and logical opportunities for shared parking that could help provide access to business customers and other business related uses of car parking and bus parking.
Yeah, I would hate to see that this particularly forward thinking move by staff be derailed by angry residents and business owners. So if we could, so Kevin, can you work all this in?
All right, and Kevin, how much of this needs to be in the motion versus what staff will do?
Right, so I think in terms of the enforcement, I think that's really just, it probably doesn't need to be part of the motion because, it is reinstated, and usually it has to do with just capacity or resources from the enforcement team, and really not so much about what we're doing here. I think the second bullet point would be probably a worthwhile, although I think Christiane already took notes of that and will definitely do it, but I think it'd be okay if it's part of a motion.
Okay, like I would like, as the person who's suggesting these as friendly amendments into the motion, I think it's good for it to be written down for people that have, valid concerns about the ability of customers and business related uses. So if it's written down that people can see that those things are being pursued. Okay, so we have.
Well, so perhaps before we kind of confirm that, if I can just maybe look towards Christine to make sure that, nothing the chair had mentioned could not be accomplished, right? I mean, that there's a question of whether or not it can be even accomplished in the first place. So I just want to make sure that Christine felt comfortable moving forward, irregardless of what the final result will be. I want to make sure that it's actually doable first.
Yes, I think that's something that staff can work on.
Okay, great.
All right. Excellent. Thanks. And I guess, like, as a final comment, unless anybody else has comments before we vote, I think the idea of paid short-term parking is probably something that is going to come back to the city as, hopefully the pandemic eases and more businesses open up and we have, more lively usage of our businesses again. And so I think that is something that we can keep in reserve. I think it's probably a little bit more than what we need to be proposing now, but it is, I suspect something we'll be seeing at some point in the future again later. Commissioners, any other commissioners have any final comments before staff helps us to vote?
I think in general, I'm not super wild about removing parking spaces. I understand what we're trying to do, but for me, I just lean away from pulling out the anything that helps businesses, especially as everyone struggled in the pandemic. There might be a better time to streamline that at their expense, but for me personally, I don't think this is the time.
I actually have a question about that, because I think what I'm hearing right now is, I think the resident from Partridge expressed this total conundrum, which is like, it's not safe to have for people coming out of side streets to have the parking in El Camino. It's not super safe to get out of your car in El Camino, but because of the resident parking permit that he's frustrated that the city's not enforcing, nobody from those businesses can park on the side streets. And I think that something has to give here. And I think if I were questioning city priorities, I would say maybe have the permit parking start a little farther back from El Camino, instead of saying, no, if you want to get a cheesecake, what you have to do is hope that somebody driving 45 or 50 miles an hour doesn't kill you when you're trying to put the cheesecake back in your car, like in that one spot in front of the cheesecake place. Like, nobody wants to put Madam Cheesecake out of business. Like, I am excited to hear there's a place I can go buy a cheesecake, and I might not bike there because the cheesecake seems kind of hard to get home on a bike, and I probably can't park in the karate UPS bike place, but I can totally walk around the corner to College Avenue if I were allowed to park there for 15 minutes. So I would love to see if we're really, I hear you, Chromie. And I also think like this is a false choice. Like, there should totally be 30-minute time limited parking around the corner from this little commercial strip, so that we don't put people out of business when they're running to drop off a bike with a flat tire at Milovello or pick up a cheesecake. And I don't think that should have a totally terrible effect on the Allied Arts neighborhood, which, I mean, I don't know, that's my thinking. And when I look at the parking, you just don't see many people parking in El Camino along the Stanford Park Hotel frontage. Like, if you look at Google Street View, that's just not really a thing. It's like one long hedge with a really crappy sidewalk. And I think, like, if we end up having problems because inconceivably 500 El Camino Real complex is underparked, then that seems like something that we should be able to deal with the way you deal with like, oh, we need to have a residential parking permit because suddenly there's spillover. But right now, that's a problem that some people are worried might happen, but that doesn't seem to be happening yet. So I would like say we should bifurcate these two issues, that there's one strip of parking along El Camino Real that, except for the random bus, doesn't seem to get used really at all, except by construction traffic sometimes. Like, and then there's this other little strip that's a convenience but a hazard. And part of the reason is because you're not legally allowed to park around the corner on the street.
So do you want to make a friendly
amendment? Yeah, I guess I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
Just have staff explore cheesecake parking, which is 30.
Yeah, can I just, could we figure out a compromise with the Allied Arts residents who understandably don't want to see their neighborhood get taken over by, I don't know, but who might themselves, if they live more than 3 blocks away from Madame Cheesecake, need to park for 30 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes to pick up the cheesecake on the way home? I don't know. Can we look at that? Can we look at that seems safer and more fair?
Is that a question to staff?
Or staff, could we explore loosening up, like coming up with either, as Commissioner Lee said, a couple of metered spaces, or just, we have this in various parts of town, like 15, 20 minute, 30 minute, like time restricted spots that are basically for dropping off and picking up things. We have it outside the post office. Could we explore something like that? As a compromise to make sure that these small businesses aren't totally suffering, but that it doesn't. And again, it's 8 spots, right? So what we're basically doing is displacing 8 spots from a dangerous place to a slightly less dangerous place, to a less dangerous place that's a little bit more inconvenient, but not horribly inconvenient. Certainly, it's not like walking across the gas station parking lot and Middle Avenue, which I think is a non-starter.
Christiane?
Okay, so it looks like there's maybe 1 or 2 time limited space right around the corner on College. On the opposite side of College, there doesn't seem to be time limited, although it's not parking permit related. I think that's something that we could explore for the other side of College. I don't think that we would have the time right now to explore, changing the permit parking. If we want to be able to install concrete median in this location, we need to get it done before Stanford needs to build that. And we need to have parking removed in order for them to build that median.
But is it safe to say that, and have you heard from, I think you said you hadn't, from the I think there's a hair salon, there's a bike shop, there's a cheesecake place that don't have access to that weird little parking lot behind the EPS place.
We did receive a call from one of the property owners. I think it was at 417 El Camino Real, that mentioned the concern about the removal of parking and that they only have the 2 spaces behind their building that they use right now for employee parking.
Okay.
So sorry, I'm trying to, you said quickly what might be able to be done in terms of the temporary, very short-term cheesecake friendly parking. Is like, how many spots are there in that category right now? And did you say that there are possibilities to explore doing more of those?
Anyway, so I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 around the corner on College so if you're turn right onto College, I think right on the right-hand side, there might be 1 or 2 time limited spaces already. On the other side, it looks like they might just be on-street parking that's not permit parking related, but no time restrictions.
Okay, so then the suggestion for the friendly amendment is to like add to these things to explore for parking solutions, to have a couple of more time limited spots on the other side of the street.
Yeah, and I guess I would say, looking at Google Street View, because I'm always interested in what actually happens here, and El Camino Real is one of those streets that Google does a street view on like every single year, the parking utilization in front of those shops is not as high as you would think. Which doesn't mean nobody ever parks there. There's frequently 1 or 2 cars parked there, but I don't see a lot of instances where it's full, and that's been my experience as well, like that.
Right, and if you're driving, you would think to park there because you don't know that there's that parking around the corner. So if there was a sign saying like, you know, time limited parking around the corner, whatever you can put in a sign, then someone can like be there and it's not far away. Commissioner Jensen.
Yeah, I'm just, thanks. I wanted to initially, when I raised my hand, just echo what Commissioner Comey said about just being concerned about removing this parking. Like, I think that supporting small businesses is really important here, and making sure, especially Namesake Cheesecake, like and Menlo are both places that I personally have been to. And so I like this idea of reconsidering, or like putting a contingency on reconsidering the parking there. But how firm is that? Is the suggestion here with the amended proposal to accept contingent on considering it, or is there like a contingent on finding a solution here? I guess how firm can we be on like finding an actual solution? That will guide my vote personally, is whether we can actually guarantee that there's going to be a good answer here for removing these parking spots and having a solution around the corner, or whether that's just something that the organization is going to consider, or the city will consider.
Right. Well, it's not going to come back to us. It's going to come back to council. So I think our recommendation would be to bring it back to council along with a package of parking solutions.
My recommendation, I really liked Commissioner Levin's or Chair Levin's recommendation for helpful signage. I think a lot of people probably do know either those businesses aren't getting enough business in general because the parking is underutilized as it is, or a number of people find that they'd rather walk 30 feet or 50 feet than park on El Camino. And so, you know, some people I think have already discovered that, but I think it would be hospitable for our city in general. Like, we have great wayfinding signs for some things like Peninsula Bikeway. Like it would be nice if we're not going to allow parking in front of there, to say, you know, to gesture to people who want to patronize those businesses that there's parking around the corner, and to like sort of clearly designate that would seem like a reasonable and friendly thing to do. I don't know how to work that into the motion because it's not really part of the staff recommendation.
Yeah, well, but the signage is already in the motion.
Okay, all right.
And like I live half a mile away, 3/4 of a mile away, something like that, not far. And I must say, you know, and I use businesses there all the time, and I never knew that there were those on-street car parking spaces around the corner. So I think that's kind of QED in terms of the need for signage for that short-term parking is already there.
Well, right, but you're coming from the back side of that, right? Like I use the parking spots in front of like the UPS store all the time because I come from the other way.
Yeah. So for the UPS store, I would park like in they're like the little spots around the back. But if I was getting a cheesecake, I would like park on El Camino and panic. And as opposed to knowing that there was a short-term parking around the corner, which I think I never knew existed. So I think that having the signs is something that is helpful maybe to more people other than me. So I think we've had, we have a motion, we have a second, we have a bunch of considerations in the motion to have the signage and then to have staff explore a variety of solutions for shared parking and more temporary parking.
I mean, I don't think this is long-term going to work, and it's Caltrans it's Caltrans, so they kind of control their street, right? But I was gonna say, like, I mean, another thing, I guess, like, no, I'm not gonna say this. I still think safety is more important. I was gonna say, like, how much space are we talking about? Like, the median is gonna take away how many feet? Like, is there a geometry issue here where things can get slightly tighter? Like, could we narrow the lanes of the driving lane through lanes of El Camino because people go too fast on it? The speed limit's supposed to be 35. It's really easy to drive 45, but that's probably not desirable from a safety perspective. Like, is that a thing that staff have considered, or is that really not within your purview because it's Caltrans?
So when we were looking at the design for the median, and I think some of the lanes were probably under the standard for Caltrans width, and so once they space that out in terms of the lanes, and then also adding the median, there really isn't enough width for the parking.
Oh no, so the lanes are going to get wider. So cars are going to go faster on El Camino.
Wait, is that what was said, that the lanes are going to be made wider and not narrower, or not the, is it?
I think that's what I just
I think
heard.
there's like the turn lane next to the median is probably on the narrow side, so it's a little bit wider.
Okay.
But and then on the east side, I guess, or the middle plaza side, there's no room for the parking right next to the third through lane as well.
Is there a site plan that we can throw back up just for reference?
Sure, let me pull up my presentation again.
I think while you're doing that, if anybody on staff is taking notes, a thing that I imagine council would ask would be just around parking utilization. And I think that wasn't in the staff report. I remember when we were doing like Oak Grove bike lanes, and I mean, anytime you're removing a lot of parking, like people kind of want to know, like, how frequently is this maxed out, or how, how sparsely parked would this be normally?
So one thing I'll say is it's a little, I mean, it's not typical situation right now because of the construction that's happening at Middle Plaza. I know a lot of their workers are parking on their side of the street. And then, of course, I think someone did mention that there is a couple businesses that are closed on the west side, so they may not all be, it may also not be fully occupied.
I think a lot of them are also parking in the Safeway parking lot.
Really?
Yes, and I know this because one of the things I wanted to ask is how we get that light, the green light from Middle onto El Camino, extended to accommodate the dramatically increased foot traffic in that crosswalk, because you can't turn left while the construction workers are going. And so sometimes only a couple of cars can get through, which is super annoying. Anyway, so yeah, construction workers are parking in the Safeway lot, or they're at least crossing over the street to the Safeway lot.
What is the question with regard to the schematic?
So I'm not sure exactly what it is, but here's the 2-foot wide median. Oops, sorry, click the button. This is the raised median here, and then you can see the travel lanes width. So this is heading northbound, and this is the Middle Plaza side, and then this Middle and College, and the area we're talking about. So you can see it's like varies between 17, not quite 18 feet and 16 feet in this section.
Chair Levin, there was no specific question. I think visually, and I just needed to see it again.
Excellent.
I mean, I think if the plan is going to widen the lanes, then I think you have to get rid of the parking. But I think it's then incumbent on the project to come up with an appropriate parking solution for some of those small businesses. I really don't want to be part of a bait and switch where, someone's built their business around a certain set of assumptions and then, sorry, like, we're widening the highway and your parking's gone. So if, I think signage is obviously a great solution. But, anyway, I would just like I would like a coherent, like definite solution to the small business parking problem. Not go back and consider this while we approve this anyway. I want a real solution to this.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so our motion says bring to council a solution for the small business parking, which includes signage for the available spaces, potential additional short-term parking, and shared parking options.
If I may, through the chair, just to add something very quickly here, Hugh Laucha, Assistant Public Works Director. So the dimensions that are in front of the business that you're talking about, they're not that the lanes would be widened here. It's that the median precludes you can't have the median and parking. Both are not possible. Even at there already are narrower than Caltrans likes to have, and that they will remain so after this project. So that, after this were to happen, this median were to be installed. So I just want to be really clear that you couldn't fit parking in here with the median. But that being said, I think we definitely hear you on the making sure we have some very clear actions. And the one that's most clear, I think, to me, and I think to staff, the rest of staff as well, is that trying to find potentially spaces on College there that could become short-term parking is a solution that it seems reasonably achievable in the short term. Some of the other things are things we could explore. We can't enforce a safe way to share their parking, for example. It's certainly something we can explore and we can talk to them about and try to see if there's an accommodation to reach that, but it's not something that we have direct control over. So we'd have to just explore that. But I think the short-term parking is something that we can definitely consider advance. We can definitely advance along with this project.
Can I ask another question? This is just one of those things that I think as part of the downtown specific plan, we probably should have had a vision for. And I apologize for not being on top of what the downtown specific plan currently says. But what was our plan for retail frontages on El Camino that need people to get to them that don't have behind site parking? Because these aren't the only places like that. There's also the little clock shop up next to the Guild. My God, how is the city thinking about, as we have more residents on El Camino through the 1300 El Camino Real project and Middle Plaza, and we enhance the pedestrian and bike access, we're going to want, it's going to be a more retail friendly environment in 5 years, right? But I'm wondering, not everybody is going to be necessarily walking or biking. What is?
Yes, so I think what the process
that we have a plan.
So the process that we're going through in this meeting now is similar to what Redwood City did when they were looking at their plans for bike lanes, and what Mountain View did when they were looking for their plans, and is in terms of looking at the car parking and saying what is absolutely needed and what are the alternatives, and deliberately finding the alternatives. So I kind of think we're doing it.
Yeah, I think we're doing it too. I guess I hope that the words bait and switch did kind of land with me, because I like this project. I think from a safety perspective, it makes sense. I think it's coherent with the city plans that I know about. But if I had just started a cheesecake business and I didn't know about those plans, I'd probably be pretty bummed.
All right. So I see that Commissioner Lee has a hand, and then I would like to call the question on Commissioner Lee.
So Hugh, I would, you sounded hopeful about getting some short-term parking on College. Can we actually say, I mean, can staff, is it reasonable, do you expect that we could replace either with the parking that's available now on College and expanding it, can we replace 8 spots on El Camino? Or even like, how many do you think we can conceivably replace?
Yeah, I think we'd have to look into the exact number that we could replace. I believe it would be short of 8. Is my sense of that, but it's certainly something that we can explore and look at.
Right. But in terms of being short of 8, though, what is practical for staff to be doing some, parking observation surveying to say, like, how often are there 8 spots being used at a time? Which on the one hand, there's some businesses that are closed, and so we don't really have a full sample. But on the other hand, as someone who's lived here for a while, like, I'm not sure I've ever seen 8 cars. Like, I suspect that the likelihood that has cars in all those spaces at the same time is quite rare. Is that something that staff can?
We can definitely do some parking counts, and I think Christiane was sort of indicating that we could do that. And the issue that you raised, that I think is correct, and that she raised as well, is that there is a lot that's happening now that is not going to be we're not going to see as a great indicator for what this will be at a more normal time, between the pandemic and construction and businesses, closed and one thing and another. So it's a bit of a challenge to get an exact, to feel confident, I guess, in what we find. But we can absolutely, and again, I think if you want to include in your motion that we collect a little bit of data, which we can certainly do, and we explore those additional short-term improvements, and then also sort of explore longer-term parking opportunities for those small businesses. That's something that we can. Those are all reasonable sounding to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dina, really quickly. So I would like to get Commissioners Cromie and Jensen and on board with whatever the final motion. And so if we can say in that we recommend this with that staff will look at ways of replacing as many as possible of those 8 spaces of short-term parking on College, then it seems like that would be a good way to go. Because I think, again, it's the psychological, even beyond like data counts of what's going on now, which we know is difficult, knowing that, if the public knows that that the city is doing its best to, find a solution, that those spots are there right now and we're taking something away, right? So if we could say, hey, we're really like doing our best to figure out replacement spots, should people need those, we're assuming that people may want those, then I feel like it's just much more palatable overall, right? Rather than trying to do a guesstimate of what the usage is right now.
Question on the, I apologize for stepping on you. Question on the UPS lot. Is that UPS lot like public for all those businesses, or is it specific to UPS store?
I think it's specific to the ones from the karate business down to the intersection. So it's the karate business, the UPS shop, the yogurt shop. If it's still a yogurt shop, I feel like the yogurt shop has gone through a few iterations. And I don't think Milli has kind of their own weird, like there's an alleyway and people pull up and there's a back entrance to the shop. I feel like the Cheesecake Place, there's a gate or something rather that might be new, that looks sort of like a small business or like an office maybe. And there's a hair salon that maybe don't have a lot of access to parking when I was looking online.
Yeah, so I don't think, so I think seeking to replace 100% of the car the spaces being removed when we have no evidence that there's ever been a time that that's been 100% utilized at the same time, I think is overkill and sets us up to have a tension between residents who feel like I think having, you know, corner spaces being short term like seems like not that onerous, and saying, you know, we need to get all of them on the side street seems like maybe overkill and setting us up for some more tension between the business use and the residential use. So I feel comfortable with it being a little bit looser and saying, you know, please come to council with, you know, looking at all of these things and proposing a reasonable solution.
I
Right, my
agree
vote
with
was
you.
to say as many as possible.
Yeah, I agree with the idea. It doesn't necessarily have to be a one-for-one swap. If we're only talking about 8 spots, maybe 4 is enough. You know, maybe 5 is enough. Maybe 6 is enough. Like probably, you know, the street view history shows that it's, you know, you're not going to have 100% utilization there. The other thing that I would probably invite the city to look at is what is the typical appointment length associated with those places, and make sure that the temporary spot is compatible with that.
Yeah, just to add my comment here, I think I can get behind that. I feel like spot for spot replacement is not necessary, but just presenting the data as we have it to city council so that they can make a decision that makes sense for both the residential side and the business side works for me.
Not to beat a dead horse, but I want to point out that in one of my Google Street View explorers, there was like a great illustration of why we would want to maybe do this, which is a cyclist riding down El Camino Real, swerving back out into the lane of traffic to get around a parked car. I mean, I think, you know, we're looking at these are trade-offs we have to make, but that happens right now too. So I want to say Rainier from Menlo Velo has actually fairly consistently advocated to have bike lanes in front of his own shop. So, I mean, obviously that serves him, but that's one business who I don't think is going to put up a big fuss about this particular change out of the 4 that we've identified that aren't served by the parking lot line.
To that point, just for what it's worth, Menlo Velo also, their front door I think is always locked and closed right now. If I understand correctly, I think this is a restriction specifically due to COVID, so that would go away, but just
it is prior to COVID, they did have their front door open. All right, have we addressed enough of the, you know, clearly you know, substantive concerns that we can move ahead and vote?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I'll support.
Great, everyone. So if you can just bear with me, I do want to take a second just to make sure that we capture everything that the commission is looking for. So obviously, a motion by Commissioner Lee, a second by Commissioner Cibrian. And for the purpose of the reading, I'm just going to go through approving the motion, but also essentially requesting or asking staff to seek temporary parking availabilities, wayfinding signs, explore share parking with adjacent businesses, and then if there's opportunity to create those temporary spaces or convert those temporary spaces, that the duration be explored to fit the needs of the customers. So those are what I have.
And do more, you know, data assessment, whether it's observation or you know, street view history or you know, to get a sense of the utilization.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Great. So with that, if commissioners that would like to vote yes for this, if you can raise your hands and hold it up for a couple of seconds, I am seeing unanimous votes. Great. Thank you very much.
So thank you, staff, for the presentation and thinking through the various different solutions. And thank you to members of the public for raising issues and commissioners for really working on the issues so that we can pursue these long-term goals in our city plans and address safety and business access.
I recommend that our commission get a cheesecake for our first reuniting in person that we can share.
Seconded.
That sounds like a very good idea. So moving past car parking and cheesecake, we will move on the agenda to E4, which is evaluating commission subcommittees to support city council priorities, where I think that there were a few outstanding topics to go through on this, and can staff walk us through what the outstanding topics are for the subcommittees?
Great, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So yes, staff, we do have one particular item that we'd like to hopefully come to a conclusion tonight, and that would be assigning the NTMP, so our neighborhood traffic calming management plan, to a potentially a subcommittee to take it on. As some of you might remember, this is one of the 3 tasks that were directed by the city council to be addressed and evaluated by the commission, and essentially for the NTMP program, which involves neighborhoods coming to the city with a request for traffic calming measures. That is typically a process that is very much community driven. And as a result of that, there is a desire by the city council to reevaluate the process and see if there's an opportunity to either keep it as is or make changes. So I would like to see if there's a subcommittee that will be willing to take on that task. And based on our previous conversations, we believe that the Transportation Master Plan Subcommittee might be a good candidate. However, we want to make sure that there are no other commissioners that wants to join. And of course, if there are commissioners that are not currently on the TMP's implementation subcommittee, then we could potentially explore creating another ad hoc subcommittee to specifically address the need here. So wanted to, so I'll pass, at this point, I'll pass the time back to the chair and maybe open it up to see if there's any, if the commission has a preferred alternative.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so if folks who are, if you are interested in working on evaluating the neighborhood traffic, the management program, and are not on the TMP implementation subcommittee, but you are interested in diving into this issue, can you raise your hand? Or if you have any more questions about what this entailed, since the last time that we talked about it, it was probably late at night. All right, Commissioner Altman.
Yeah, Kevin, can you state the objectives and end state for the task so that we would know when we're done?
Yeah, absolutely. So in this case, the task that we have specifically at hand here is the neighborhood traffic management plan. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is we have a plan, a set of procedures. So if a resident comes to the city and requests to have traffic calming devices installed in their neighborhood, there's a set of guidelines, it's a set of rules that we follow to achieve that. And it is typically a very much a community-driven process and has the reputation of being a fairly lengthy process. So the city council's direction to the commission here is to evaluate that process and essentially come up with a way to evaluate it and come up with a recommendation to the process itself, right? So it could be that after the evaluation, the commission collectively believes the current process is the right process and we want to keep it as is. Or perhaps there are some other areas that could be improved. And as a result of that, there will be recommendations coming out from this effort. So that's kind of a nutshell what we are trying to achieve here. And I guess the end product will be a recommendation to the city council about the process itself.
And how long, so you probably have in your calendar a time frame for when you want to bring this to council. And I know there's a backlog of NTMP projects right now, so we probably want to not dither too much. Are you looking at what, a 3-month process?
Oh, we haven't, truth be told, we haven't quite dived into that conversation yet, because you are right, we have quite a bit of work to do, even just outside of the NTMP. But once we have a subcommittee established for this work, I imagine that the next step would be staff taking an offline meeting with the subcommittee and try to come up with a good strategy to move this forward.
Okay. Ideally, when do you think you would bring it to council?
We don't have a tentative schedule at this point, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for background, the last time there was a committee to review the NTMP, it was like somewhere, I think it was more than 1 year, and like somewhere between 1 and 2 years. So we may not want to go at that pace, but the previous bite at this one was took a while. Commissioner Altman, do you have is this a new candidate?
Yeah, along the same lines, I suggest that we really state this in terms of a time boundary, and also an outcome. So what I hear being said is we want to make recommendations as how to improve the TP process, right? The actual process itself, right? So it's scope bound to the process by which things get into it, essentially, correct?
Yes.
So what I'm proposing is we say we're going to limit it to 6 months, right? Just to throw something out there and say in 6 months, we will have recommendations as to these improvements. I'm suggesting that we always have a statement of scope as well as it being time bound. So it just doesn't go on forever.
Yep, and staff would be totally agree with that. And that's why I think the first step would be kind of establishing that subcommittee to make sure that, whoever is on this subcommittee is interested in that topic. Of course, that always kind of helps with the timeline. If you're interested in it, typically that gets the ball going a little bit faster. So once we have that subcommittee, then we can establish what you just mentioned, which is a scope, a timeline, et cetera, because we do have to take into account some of the processes that goes along with doing something like this.
Okay, and I appreciate staff's commentary about putting that definition into the project itself, because I think scoping it as modifying the NTMP as it is does not encompass some of the alternatives, because the NTMP is reactive and some of the alternatives are more proactive to say, for certain classes of things, let's have a staff move forward as opposed to it being request driven. So I don't want to constrain us too tightly to the process that we have, because there's alternatives that would have the same goals of having safe streets, but it wouldn't have the same boundary conditions. So for example, the NTMP has historically pertained only to streets of a certain class that are only residential streets. And, we have safety problems on mixed use streets. And so I wouldn't want to limit the scope to the program we have defined. I would want to define the scope within the process and look a little bit beyond what we have, because I don't think the current scope is actually the ideal way of achieving our goals.
I hear you, Chair Levin. I wonder if council is looking for that from us as well. And I'm wondering if staff can tell us that. And that's like the one, I think when I spoke with Mayor Combs last year about the NTMP, he knew there was a backlog and he was eager to get it going again. And if determining what to do with it is precluding that from happening, I don't know if we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think we need to overthink this. In my opinion is I don't think we need to overthink this in plenary. I think we can, scope within the subcommittee. And sadly, I am not seeing yet any hands in addition to the subcommittee, because other people who are interested, that would be great too. But since Commissioner Altman has expressed some interest, and I'm not seeing anybody else going once, going twice, going 3 times.
Wait, I think John Kermy might have been interested, but he had to run off screen for a minute to be a parent.
Okay.
Let's tentatively put this with the TMP for now, with the NTMP. What we were going to do as we were. Oh, here he comes.
Okay, so Commissioner Cromie, we were talking about whether to keep the NTMP review within the TMP implementation subcommittee, or whether there were other people that wanted to work on this, and in that case we could create a different ad hoc.
What's the general consensus so far?
Are you interested in working on a committee that would be evaluating the neighborhood traffic management program and making recommendations to council for how it might change or evolve?
Given my radical history of success on the zero emissions subcommittee, I would probably say no at this point.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like it's us.
All right. And because we're going to bring it to the full commission, if there's other people that have opinions, then we're going to have a chance to discuss it. So, all right, great.
Great.
So the staff has what it needs.
Yes, thank you.
Do we need to make a motion or anything, or no?
No, I think it's okay. That's within the purview of what we do. So we're fine.
All righty. So are there any comments from members of the public on the subcommittee evaluation as it relates to the MTMP subcommittee or any other subcommittees? I'm not seeing any hands raised from members of the public. So we can move on to informational items. Item F, where informational items are transmitted to the commission in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. And the informational item is update on major project status. What updates do we have on major project status?
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. So I do have 4 particular items I wanted to bring to your attention. So first and foremost would be that we are preparing a request for proposal for the quiet zone study that is currently underway. So for those interested, definitely want to stay tuned for that. We also, as I mentioned, I think a couple meetings ago, that we initiated a Camino Real pedestrian crossing project. So this is the one where we're looking at the current signalized locations along El Camino and see if there's any locations that could we can enhance the pedestrian crossing, specifically adding crosswalks that are currently missing out there. So that right now we're reviewing the scope the proposals that we have received from various consultants. So we should be able to, after the review, we'll be able to select a consultant and move forward with that project. So very excited to see that one moving forward. Also, a kind of a shout out for a project community meeting that might be occurring in the near future. The Middle Avenue Complete Streets project. This is for many of you that might know, this is a project that is high on the City Council priority. The Middle Avenue Complete Street project will consist of essentially two main components. One is looking at installing bike lanes down middle, and then also looking at traffic calming measures. So staff is tentatively looking at putting together a community meeting for that. It will be our first community meeting for that project, sometime in late February or early March, maybe mid-March, depending on how much of the outreach effort that we need to put into. And obviously, we want to make sure that everyone that not only lives along the corridor but utilize Middle Avenue will get a notice about the project, so we can come and provide their input. So I do want to kind of put a shout out to that. As we have more information readily available, we'll make sure to share that with the Commission with an eye towards hoping that the Commission can also help spread the word for that project. And then lastly, just wanted to update the Commission on the Bellhaven traffic calming plan. Bellhaven traffic calming plan. So as you know, the City Council approved that project with some of the recommendations that were presented from the Commission. We have since been able to complete our sort of the administration portion of things and moving into design. And I know the first thing that in your mind is the bollards on New Bridge. So we'll make sure to get those out as soon as we can. But happy to report that we have gone through the administrative work, and we can move into design and actual implementation hopefully afterwards. So with that, I will conclude my update.
All right. Thank you. And does anybody other than me have questions or comments? And please use hand raise because I can't see anybody. I can't see everybody at the same time. One thing that has happened even since the prep meeting with the chair and vice chair before this meeting is that the COVID case rates have started to decline in the Bay Area, both in terms of case rates and then in terms of the measurements being done from wastewater, which doesn't depend on testing, it's just a measurement. So as the staff was thinking about should there be an option for something in person, the pattern that we're seeing in different places in the East Coast and around the world is like 3 weeks up and 3 weeks down. So by the end of February, it might be even more reasonable to do stuff outside. That's a comment based on watching too much COVID news. Any other questions or comments from commissioners before we see if there's any public comment on the major projects? All right, seeing none. Moving on in the agenda to the, is that somebody talking or just making small squeaky noises? Committee and subcommittee reports, where we'll see if there are reports from advisory bodies since the last commission meeting. The climate action committee did not meet. Commissioner Lee, do you have anything to add on this matter?
Sorry, which commissioner, which subcommittee we're talking about right now?
Climate action, reducing vehicle miles traveled.
Oh, no, I don't have anything to add.
All right, downtown access and parking, G2, Altman, Baruzzi.
I feel like time is smushing all together right now, and I can't remember what we did last month because the holidays happened for me. But I just want to thank Assistant Public Works Director Lauch and anybody else who is involved And adding the stop signs by the Starbucks intersection on Santa Cruz really does, I think, make a difference in the safety for people there and just smooths things out. I'm so happy that we were able to get that done. Thank you.
Yay. Multimodal metrics. Commissioner Baruzzi.
Yeah, so this came up at the council meeting last night. And this is another one of those things where I have like midlife brain fuzz. And I feel like the last time our subcommittee met with Assistant Public Works Director Louch, man, I'm bad with these like titles. But at least I can pronounce Louch. So last time we met, I think the gist of what we said was, you obviously know a lot about this. Let's stop dinking around and like probably come up with something, like staff experts come up with something that we can bring to the commission. Like we the amateurs don't need to come up with this from scratch. But I also heard last night at the council meeting, there's a Complete Streets Commission subcommittee working on this. And I want to make sure that Brian and Adina and I are not holding up the show. And if we are, then we need to know, and we need to come up with something quickly, because it sounded like metrics were being updated as far as VMT goes last night, and that big projects are on the horizon, and that it would be expedient to get something done on this sooner rather than later. So Hugh, what would you like to see from us?
Yeah, if it's helpful, I'm happy to tell you what I did last night, and then also maybe where we go from here. So yes, the update last night was to the VMT thresholds that we use for measuring significance, in an environmental review context, and it was really mostly fairly straightforward stuff, but we did recognize that council would want to hear about how things are going, and so we included some information. And so my current thinking about the multimodal metrics, sort of following our conversation, is that we do know it's a priority. We do know it's something that the council wants, and that the Complete Streets Commission also wants to see happen. There are, I think, probably good examples and a lot of things that we can draw from. And we think probably the most expedient way to advance this and kind of not just sort of come up with like, okay, these are the right ideas, which I think is reasonably straightforward, as you say, but actually like, here's the methodology you're going to use in a set of guidelines, is to bring a consultant on board to help us, sort of say like, look, here's how 4 other cities have done it, and these are things that are relevant for you, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of what we said we would do last night, and that currently our plan is to bring that forward as part of the next year, so the mid-year, when we get into next fiscal year, but so in the middle of this year's budget, so we could bring that forward. And we did hear from council that that's great, but at least some of them would like to see it even sooner. So, and really it's just a matter of sort of staff time and the ability to sort of shift things around. So we will do what we can, but at the latest, we would be sort of by mid-year trying to bring that forward, to bring someone on board to do that work.
So at this point, is there anything you need from the multimodal metrics subcommittee?
I think that, I could imagine an ongoing role, assuming that you all are interested in, seeing some of the work that might be produced from that and helping sort of review some of the options and things like that. It may be worth also just wrapping up the conversation that we had with a clear set of sort of like, these are the things that we want to do. And one thing I would observe about that is that the TIA guideline update to add metrics was like one part of essentially a sort of a 3-part effort, I think is what we talked about. And there were other parts of that that will also be important, but maybe have less sort of short-term immediacy, if you will. So I'm happy to send around at some point when I get a few minutes, sort of what I think those 3 things are and where I think we stand. And it may be worth, I don't know that we need to meet in the, but certainly open to it if you all want to review once I send my thoughts around. And then probably the next action for that group will be to help us think about, what, because I think that the key with the TIA guidelines is that we could do something very simple or we could do something more complicated. And, you know, certainly from a staff standpoint, and really honestly, this will be stuff that we give to developers to do. So, you know, we can make their lives complicated potentially, but we want to make it sort of reasonable and something that they can achieve and also kind of get the benefits we want. So there'll be that little bit of balancing and thinking through. So I think it'll be useful to have some input from you all on that.
Okay, so we'll
I
look
think
for
that yeah, so I think that path with having something being in writing and then maybe talking about it sounds like a good path. And like I have questions, and the main question I will have in looking at what's written down is there merit to doing some things sooner and some things later? And the reason has to do with the unfortunate situation that the city found itself in with concerns by commissioners and city council members, is that given the way that the rules are, there were developments that were done in a way that had like where the transportation plans for those developments were not what the city council expected in terms of the city's policies. And because there are so many developments that are moving forward, that like waiting a year and a half, like we might wind up with a really beautiful policy and kind of either unsafe conditions on the ground for the developments that had been planned in the meantime, or this like really painful process of commissioners and city council members trying to claw back bad safety that the developers spent their money and time doing because they were just dotting the I's and crossing the T's to the city's process. So I would look forward to seeing what's written down and then coming and asking to see if there's anything that can be done that can help the developments that are in the pipeline, so we don't wind up like fighting a ground war on those things. A ground war in favor of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense and totally agree. And I have very much thought, do we try to do the simplest things so we can do it faster and then build on that? It means more rounds of update, obviously, which is its own challenge, but it's certainly something we can explore.
If there's something that could be like not too painfully iterated. Okay. Okay, so that was that substantive subcommittee update where thank you very much to Assistant Public Works Director, because
just go with Hugh.
Yeah, because the subcommittee was like wrestling with this offline. So thank you, that has clarified that. On multimodal subcommittee, I've got some quick regional transit news, which is the fare integration proposal that I think the city was supporting is going to come back to transit agencies in March or April. So that will be helpful and welcome to have the city support. And also the governor just proposed a budget with some funding for public transportation, which is going to need to be reviewed and hashed out by the legislature. So hopefully that can help with the various different transportation projects that we have or that would positively affect us. Commissioner Sebian, do you have any updates in this category?
Nope. Sorry.
All right, moving on to G5. The Safe Routes to School program subcommittee. Any updates from Commissioners Baruzzi, Cyprian, and Lee?
Sure, I can provide an update on the latest doing. So at the beginning of December, there was a very exciting bike walk audit over at Hillview Middle School, which is one of the 5 schools of the Menlo Park City School District. And it was great to see Hugh and I'm sorry, Mr. Wen and Christiane and just a whole bunch of people all training their eyes, their laser sharp eyes on the situation around Hillview. And so lots of observations were made and information was exchanged. So I already Hillview in the, I think as the direct result of that meeting, Hillview asked parents not to park on Hillview Avenue because of the dangerous traffic interactions there. So the school is doing what it can by messaging out to the parents. I'm hoping that Hugh has a whole list of cool things that are going to be happening as a result, but I'm not going to put any pressure on you to announce anything right now. I'm so grateful that there were a lot of people with their eyes on the situation and I'm listening. So that was wonderful.
There was also a really great report out in the Safe Routes Task Force meeting about all the different bike rodeos and things the different schools are doing. And for the first time in a long time, it really felt like the program was getting some legs, you know, that schools administrations were working on school-wide education, which was super cool. So it like less just like parents showing up and volunteering and more of like the school administrations being involved. There was something neat at Oak Knoll. I think they got a grant to get bikes for everybody. Am I remembering this, Lydia?
I didn't actually get a chance to attend that meeting. Remember you were—
Oh yeah, you're right. It was just me and I should have taken notes. Anyway, good things are happening. I just felt super optimistic about our citywide Safe Routes to School program and all of the support that it has at the school levels. So that was, people should feel good about it.
That sounds good. If I'm remembering right, which I might not be, does the subcommittee have a charter to generally review the Safe Routes to School program and make recommendations to council? And if so, it was your just recent positive testimony fulfill that goal, or is there something else that you're doing along those lines?
We need to circle up as a group and touch base on that and figure out what we need to do in terms of a report to fulfill our obligation to council. So I don't think we have an update on that, but I don't, my off cuff thing just now where I was like, yay, Safe Routes definitely doesn't qualify. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other remarks from or regarding Safe Routes before we move on to the next subcommittee?
If I may, just quickly, so we are waiting on the sort of draft recommendations, but we will share those as soon as we have them. And we are also planning next, because we do have additional money, sort of resources in the existing budget to do additional walk audits. And I think next we're going to do one at Upper Laurel is the plan, which I think dovetails nicely with some other things that have been going on in that area. And I know there are needs at all the schools, so recognize that, but that's I think what we'll do next. Hopefully this month, or not this month, but hopefully by say next month.
Cool. Moving on, for the transportation master plan implementation subcommittee, where one of the things that we do is make recommendations for city council prioritization based on projects that reduce vehicle miles traveled and improve safety. The city council goal setting is coming up, and I guess if we had wanted to have the it is possible that the council will discuss this before we meet as a complete commission, but the subcommittee can and should definitely meet. Does anybody have any idea when council priority setting workshop is going to be?
So what I can tell you is that to date, a meeting has not been set, and we're not aware of one on the schedule. And of course, there have been a lot of other big things happening. So it may be that it's delayed a bit here, but there's no current plan that we know of.
Okay. So with the indulgence of fellow commissioners, I think that we should meet, and it would also be helpful to get a little bit, if possible, some staff support in terms of what the pipeline looks like with, of the things that were expected to be happening with respect to the resources that the city has. So like, I'm sure that we could make recommendations that would be like incredibly in advance of what the city can possibly do, or maybe, not like, so we want to be kind of calibrated. Does that sound like a reasonable support request from staff on that to help us with the context that will help us weigh in with recommendations to council?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts from fellow commissioners on this subcommittee about something that we ought to be doing before our next meeting?
No, I think you covered it.
And G7 update from Zero Emission Subcommittee.
So we didn't meet, but I've been doing a lot of research on the electric air taxi stuff. Obviously, I'm now in that industry, and so I have a lot more availability to access to information. And looking across the industry as a whole, this one's going to go. And I think we would be wise as a city to start building that into our infrastructure and thinking about that. That has a potentially tremendous opportunity for emissions reductions, as well as traffic congestion reductions. Menlo is very conveniently located roughly at the midpoint between SFO and SJC. And it's likely that early routes will be between the two airports. And so cropping up as a potential spot, as a hub to access and service both of those airports, that will be one of the early adoption cases. Now, eventually these are going to pop up in essentially every city. But I think it would be very forward looking to start considering where that transit hub would be. The best place would be as if we actually got on with building the downtown parking structure. Putting it on the top floor of that would be the best for a lot of reasons. Anyway, I just want to start putting the bug in everybody's ear that this would be, this is coming, and it would be good if we were on the vanguard of it.
All right, I have a question about this, and I suspect I'm not alone in being pretty unfamiliar with this topic, other than knowing that it kind of exists and has been getting bunches of like VC investment. But other than that, I don't know. And I suspect that there's a great many other people who are at that level of knowledge or less. And so I'm wondering what you would think in terms of, I guess I have two questions for you. One is, do you have like any sense of when it, like 5 years, 10 years, a year and a half, that there would be like somewhere in the United States that there would be some deployment? And that's one. And then question two is like, because of that, baseline low level of knowledge, what would you recommend in terms of some kind of education for community members and policymakers about what the heck this is and why we should be thinking about it?
Great questions. So I think you're going to start to see preliminary routes show up on a limited basis. A lot of it's going to be limited by the production capability of the aircraft. But I think you're going to see that in about 3 to 4 years. And then I think we would probably be open for like Bay Area and potentially being a hub in like 6 to 8 years. This is definitely one of those situations, like technology across the board has a tendency, everyone thinks it's going to revolutionize the world when it comes, and then it doesn't. And then 20 years later, it blows everything away, right? Like the Wright brothers first flew in 1903, but airplanes were irrelevant in World War I, but they were completely the dominant weapon in World War II. And then we were to the moon by 69, right? So it takes a little bit. And so lithium batteries were really the impetus to this. And so everyone thought they were going to change the world in 2000, and they changed laptops. And then all of a sudden it's going to be cars, airplanes, and it's going to happen really, really quick. I would be, regarding the second question, why don't we use, I don't know if this is the right form to do it, but maybe I could give a little mini presentation to try to address some of those issues. And we can sort of use that as a kind of a pathfinder of like, yeah, these are the things that we want to talk about when we're talking to this audience, whether it's members of the public or whether it's policymakers. And we can kind of have a real-time learning on that to kind of craft the message. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I would, that seems fine to me and kind of fun and interesting. And I think it would be cool if the subcommittee would work with staff on some creative ideas for how to publicize, because I think this is something that would be intriguing for members of the public.
For sure. Okay, I'll take that.
This also sounds like a regional thing, right? Like Menlo Park can have a hub, but like it seems like what's the regional, Adina, you're the expert on this. What's the regional body of note that would be like is it Joint Venture Silicon Valley? Is it like a nonprofit like that? Is it like a
for things that
like
fly in the
regionally
air? I know nothing about things that fly in the air.
I mean,
maybe Commissioner Cromie knows. So like I think that you're right in terms of the region to make progress. We would need something larger, and we would want to have like a joint venture convening or something. But I think in terms of just us as a city knowing what the heck this is and having somebody on our commission that knows about it, like and taking advantage of that seems helpful and fun. Does staff have any objection to the suggestion I just made to the subcommittee?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely sounds very interesting to me personally as well. So I think we can definitely, talk with the chair and the vice chair to see how we can potentially agendize this. And staff will separately can reach out to the subcommittee member to get an idea of the topic to be presented, and then that will help us decide how, where best to fit within the agenda for that presentation. So yeah, definitely would be, we can communicate that offline.
Regarding which governing authorities, this is going to be an interesting interaction between, the regional municipalities or governing bodies and the FAA and airports. Right now, helicopters only land at airports with special exceptions. And so the FAA is going to have to really get their backsides in gear to allow for more takeoff and landing locations. And there's a lot of air traffic control issues associated with that. So it's going to be a pretty messy collision between those two,
as it were.
Hopefully that's the only collision associated with this topic.
Okay, thanks. All right, cool. Actually, I've one more thing on this, which is that San Francisco Supervisor Preston was making some noises about doing something regarding regional bike share, which presumably includes e-bikes, and there's various different bicycle coalitions that are looking into what that is and what it might mean for any place other than San Francisco. So if I hear anything about that, I will report back. With that, unless there's anything else on zero emission vehicles of any shape and size or elevation.
Unless you want to talk about it, I'll talk all night on it.
All right, we'll move to adjournment, and we'll adjourn the meeting until the usual time in February. So
Great, thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
night, everyone.
everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.